Hello and welcome back to the channel, and thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Today we're going to be talking about hemp, what it is, how much of it is grown in the UK and Great Britain, why perhaps we should be using more of it, its advantages and its green credentials, as it were, to help the environment. It's something that I understand has been grown for hundreds of thousands of years, and yet a lot of people, when they think of hemp, they automatically confuse it with perhaps cannabis and some illegal substance that people are taking for recreational purposes. But it has a lot more uses than any of that. And, of course, it could be something that we could grow at home. I want to find out more about hemp because as and when I get a bit of land, I think I could put it to good use myself. To help me understand the uses of hemp and understand all about it, I have two wonderful people who run associations growing hemp and promoting the product. We have Varin in Northern Ireland, who runs the association in Northern Ireland, and Ianto in Wales, who runs an association in there. And I don't know which one of you chaps would like to come on and talk about hemp first, but I'm going to take potluck and see. It's Varin. Hello, Varin. How are you?
Hi, Richard. Thanks very much for having the both of us on today. Look
Uh,
forward to discussing hemp and educating your lovely audience all about it.
what, it will be fantastic. Now, I just point out that your internet connection is a bit dodgy, so you might come and go as we've just seen. But don't let that worry us because we can still hear you nice and clearly. And Yanto,
Yep.
hello to you.
Hello, Richard. How are you? Thank you.
I'm very well. I'm very excited to have this discussion about hemp because it's a little bit different, but it is it's an important thing. So maybe whilst you're on the screen, Yanto, can you tell us exactly, for those people who've heard the term and don't really know what it is, what hemp is?
Well, it's from the cannabis family, but it's like you could call it a cousin in one sense. But it's the non-psychoactive part of the cannabis plant, so it's traditionally been used for industrial use. So if we go back the UK history, for example, 1600s, been used for sails and rope and a variety of textiles probably. It's been used probably for 10 to 12,000 years in places like China, where it was the whole aspect of the whole plant would have been used for health and for different innovations. So yeah, what we're trying to do really is get over the stigma over the plant because it was prohibited in the US in the early 1900s, which caused it was, I guess, marijuana and were brought into the same conversation, and instead of separating the two, they were both classed as the same. Hence, we had a prohibition then across the world, really, with hemp. So the farmers, from being like one of the main plants grown on the planet, it was then sort of decreased due to this prohibition. So what we're trying to do really is re-educate people, and obviously in the US and Canada and places now they're far bit in front of the UK. So we're trying to model and have a look at what they're doing and how they've incorporated it back into society, really, the legislation and what have you. And this is what we're trying to highlight and advocate here in the UK, is to try and take away that stigma and try and show the benefits on so many different angles of how hemp can move forward humanity, really, and bring us back to nature, really.
As you've highlighted there that the sort of different uses that you can use this plant for, and you immediately said ropes, and of course anybody who's nautical or read those old nautical books with the sailing ships and what have you will sort of think about these ropes. So it's an immensely strong material once you've weaved it into the rope, and so therefore very useful. And the other thing that strikes me immediately is because it is a botanical plant, it's biodegradable, so that whatever you make out of it does not leave horrible landfill residue that leaches into the watercourses and causes pollution. So it's a very green substance that perhaps we're not making use of.
That's right, yeah.
So Varin in Northern Ireland, is hemp
Yeah.
an important part of the materials for, I don't know, because I know you're going to do some demonstration with some fascinating things, as well as a fire demonstration, which I'm very keen to see.
Yeah. About to show you
Is it?
some handmade rope that my friend made, and
Oh yeah, show us that.
she made that in Vermont in USA.
And what, I mean, on a piece of rope like that, what sort of weight can you pull on it?
It's extremely strong, stronger than you would probably imagine. Really, just for a natural material, hemp is one of the strongest tensile strength natural materials that we have in the world, alongside the likes of bamboo and a few other things. Maybe bamboo isn't tensile, but certainly for structural aspects, So it's
And
so many benefits. We don't have enough time to talk about all the benefits of that today, Richard. At this point.
Well, it'd be nice to know some of the benefits for sure. I mean,
Certainly.
is hemp quite big in Northern Ireland in terms of its
Yes,
growing and use?
it's becoming more popular for farmers to use as a break crop or rotational crop within their standard cycles of other cereals and other crops within the farm. But part of the problem we have here and in Wales, and not so much all over England and Scotland, they have processing facilities, but we don't have that luxury here in Ireland or in Wales at this stage. So I suppose the farmers' hands are tied, like in many other circumstances, that we don't have a market. I suppose there's no chicken or an egg at this stage, so
Right.
we need we need one or the other.
So,
Or both.
I mean, it is extraordinary. So, we'll talk about its uses and all of that in a moment, then, because presumably it was used to great advantage in the past. I mean, ropes on sailing ships and things, and various other things.
Yeah.
Ianto, why has it grown out of grown? See the pun there. Why has it become out of favour?
Well, originally, the first American dollar bill was made either completely out of hemp or composite. So it was really predominant in everyday life. I know that the BBC have done research because one of the main arguments was that it's not indigenous to the UK. Therefore, if you introduced it, it might have a derogatory it might not be positive with the other flora here or
Right.
the microchip. So, but we've proved now. What's really good with the Welsh language is, because it's so old, it can tell you sometimes what was in certain areas previously. So the word for hemp in Welsh is cwarch, and you have pant cwarch and cwm cwarch. So these, if you translated these, they would be the valley of the hemp or the area of the hemp.
Right. So hemp was grown in Wales then?
Yes, and we're going back thousands of years. So we've proved this, that it was indigenous. So that begs the question. You see, it would have been part of our food supply, food chain, because obviously the animals would have grazed on it, and then it would have been in the meats or the milk or whatever that we consumed then. So it would have actually been in our diet. So that would have helped our endocannabinoids, which we have naturally in the body, which is not something that's taught regularly in university, same as everything. So the endocannabinoid is a very important part of the body when it comes to health, and that would have been indigenous in the olden times, and that would have been across the world, I would imagine.
You even have that in England as an example, as well as Hemel Hempstead and a few others as well then too, so there's Hemp Street in Belfast as well. So hemp was
right,
definitely
that's interesting. Hemel Hempstead. So hemp
Yeah.
stead. Oh right, how interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so it and it's interesting there. You say it was part of the food chain. That I mean, I suppose a lot of people wouldn't think of eating hemp as such because they perhaps are thinking of the end products and not thinking of it as a plant, as a grazing plant that would have been in the fed on or fed by cattle and sheep and what have you.
Yeah,
And I did a quick look
absolutely.
on the dreaded Wikipedia before, and it said something like 35% of hemp is protein, which is very good.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic stuff. Yeah.
So
It really is.
can humans eat
It's
it
the best.
as in and of itself, growing off the ground? Can you sort of take the leaves and just gobble on it?
Yeah.
Add it
Absolutely, you can use it in salad. You
right.
could use it in juice. You could probably cook it like spinach. I haven't done that. That would probably ruin some of the potential qualities and enzymes and stuff. But a bit like any sort of vegetable that's boiled or steamed, in a sense. But yeah, it's so versatile. And then you've got the hemp seed, Richard, which is where the protein aspect of
Yeah.
the nutritional value comes from. Then and all your omega fatty acids, omega 3, 6, and 9. It's the most balanced profile for humans out of all plant materials that have been discovered so far, and all your ALAs, your alpha lionic acids, and it's very very good. And it's actually probably the best substitute for meat if anybody wanted to go down a vegan diet or anything like that that you could use, and be assured that you're not eating just plastic and other vegan ingredients that are added to some of these foods as well. Then too, So.
Yeah. So is there any sense? I mean, I know we talk about sort of controversial subjects on this channel. There's no. Has it been banned or played down by, say, the powers that be, who wouldn't want us to be eating something so wonderful as this? I just can't help feeling that if it's so brilliant, why is it not everywhere?
Well, yeah, absolutely. You've again hit on a very important subject at the minute. There was a good friend of mine actually tried to pick up hemp seed oil in Ireland here the other day and tried about 6 or 7 shops and supermarkets, and nobody had it in stock anymore. So yeah, unfortunately, there is a bit of an iron curtain and somebody sitting behind it with regards to this because um, it's been fully taken on by the bigger food companies, by pharmaceutical companies, by petrochemical, right across the board. They want to be in market control, and no, there's no secret as far as I'd be concerned that way. It's pretty obvious. You follow the money, so without
Yes.
getting too conspiratorial.
So in other words, anything that farmers and ordinary people could grow would mean that these bigger companies are not getting a cut of the pie, and so they want to be able to, as you say, control the market.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know you've got some bits and pieces you want to
Yeah.
demonstrate, and I'm just waiting really for your signal to improve so we can see you a bit better, so that when you get your fire going, we can see what it is. Maybe you could tell us. Oh, here we go. You've got some samples there. You were telling me that you've got hemp wood, which is far stronger than oak, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And I gather that hemp is fast growing. Here we go. So this is compacted
It is
hemp.
indeed. Yeah.
So that would make a brilliant timber material, a timber alternative to construct houses and furniture and various other things. That's incredibly strong. So it could,
Extremely. Yeah. That's apparently statistically, or sorry, there seems to be quite a lag there, Richard. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about
Statistically,
that.
it seems to be, or well, you're okay. I think it's my end here. So yeah, it's 20% engineeringly stronger than oak. Apparently, that's down to the manufacturer's statistics. Yeah, it can be used in multiple, uh, I suppose, areas in construction, and it would have to be, yeah. That I think I don't know any of the calculations with regards to that aspect of things, but furniture, definitely other materials, indoor and interior materials. They're making flooring, laminate flooring from this at the minute, and it's really beautiful. It looks like bamboo in many respects
Wow.
too. Then, so with the grain. and that's
Yeah.
pressed hemp fiber hurd all together with soybean resin.
Right. Okay. So it's all natural. I mean, that's the other thing is that we,
Yeah,
we create
and
so much,
compostable. Yeah,
and compostable. Well, it seems the perfect crop, doesn't it? You've
yeah,
also mentioned bricks. You can make hemp
yeah.
bricks,
Maybe
which is
this everybody wants to put their sunglasses on for this demonstration, but
so. This
this
is
is the
also fire retardant.
yeah. I'll show you the side that isn't burnt first. So this
Right.
is hempcrete block. It's made from shiv and lime. Basically, there's probably some other fancy mineral materials in this mix. I'll not mention any names to give away the maker, but wouldn't
Right.
want to give them any free advertising. But basically, this is completely yeah. Again, I don't know the full technical way to explain the fire retardancy or flame proof aspect of things, but it is pretty fireproof. There are tests online that have shown that to be set fire to for over half an hour. I think was part of the sort of test scenarios for fireproof materials, and it just smolders more than anything. It doesn't actually catch light.
Right. So you're going to
So
blast it now, are you?
if you're happy enough to, yeah, you might want to turn down your volume for this as well. So I'll,
It's all right. I'm going to put on my welding goggles. So just say a few words so that the picture comes up, Varin.
Yeah, that's
Here we go.
very hot. This is like this blowtorch is about 2,000 degrees. The flames like actually a 70 basically. So
Look at that.
and that's just what it
That
does
is
there. So,
yeah. So
yeah,
that would be no good in my pipe then. I couldn't smoke it, could I?
definitely not.
So those bricks you could use to build houses and things like that, presumably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
just pass over to Ianto for 1 second. I think there's somebody at my front door here, if you
Oh right.
don't
Okay.
mind.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No problem. This is how it goes. It's all good fun. So Yanto, yeah, but bricks for houses. I mean, that sounds an absolutely fantastic green initiative then. Because people want to live on the land. They may want to live in something which isn't going to be too permanent, or can be permanent, but is not going to leave horrible residue on the landscape.
That's right. Yeah, it's got over 50,000 applications and uses. So it goes into everything in society, really, from paper to plastic. Bio oil. So really, you can the house becomes more breathable as well. So
Right.
it'll help it in the summer and during the winter. It's far more fire retardant. It also gets away with there's no damp, and it will also help towards insects like that around the house and stuff as well. So it's completely natural and it's biodegradable. So at the end of its life, it can be easily, changed into something else.
And you mentioned it's compostable. If you were to build a house out of
Yeah.
hemp, though, how long would it last? Because you don't want the house to biodegrade whilst you're living in it, obviously.
No, it lasts a lot longer. I think say up to 100 years, and it's far longer really than any of the other material because it's far
yeah,
stronger. Well,
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
And I understand it is relatively quick. It's a very fast growing crop.
Yeah, 12 to
yeah,
4 months really. The task at hand really would be able to have 2 crops per year rather than just one. So I know that they're looking at seeds that can grow during the winter, and there are indigenous tribes previously that have grown the roots deeper.
they've
So that
obviously they've got more
prevents.
sunlight than us as well, and less geoengineering too. So
So if people are growing this, is it good for the soil? I mean, that's something that farmers are facing at the moment, the problem with soil because of the the monocrop that they have and continually poisoning the soil with insecticides and then artificial fertilizers. How easy is it to grow, and is it good for the soil?
Absolutely, it's quite easy to grow. It does need a good field to start off with. It's well drained. It doesn't like wet feet like anybody, or like any crop. So uh, to start off with, your field does need to be well drained. Sandy, loomy soil is the most beneficial, I think, for a lot of the hemp crops. But then, as long as it's an arable type of soil, it's gonna do very well without a huge amount of other input. You could add a small amount of NPK fertilizer if needed, but it doesn't really necessarily need that. A lot of the time, sunshine, really, like all of us,
Well, we all need sunshine,
is
don't
what
we?
it needs, So, yeah.
And so, tell us some of the other uses for it. So, as a building material, and
Yeah.
clearly, it can go into the animals can graze on it. What have you got there?
So that's hemp installation as well, then. So that's not quite. I'll not do a fire demonstration with this.
Right. So you can build your cabin or your house rather with the hemp bricks, and then you can insulate it or insulate your loft with the hemp insulation.
And it's extremely soft. So I mean,
Yes, and unlike glass fiber or any of the other stuff, it's rock wool or whatever it is that they use now. It's a lot easier. It doesn't get under your nails. I remember, in the
that's
old
horrible
days.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas that's much easier.
And then there's a board as well. It's a compressed board. It's a bit like the hemp block. Then
Right.
So, but this is a compressed board, a 30 mil acoustic board. Then it's actually made in Germany. So, and I have that behind me on the ceiling in the house behind me. That's what's on the
It
ceiling.
looks quite lightweight.
It is extremely light. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's certainly light. It's lighter than plasterboard for that density. So, or for
Right.
that thickness. So, and it's breathable. It's hygroscopic. It's hemp is one of the best building materials with regards to all of the allergies and potentially sort of hay fevery type conditions that people might get, or sinus problems or breathing problems, or it's one of the best for actually filtering the air and cleaning the air to make it more hypoallergenic, I suppose, then for its residents. So this is hemp fiber just on its own. So that would be very like flax, just before it's processed into this material then.
Right. So is it a complicated process? I mean, you mentioned at the beginning that there's not enough processing plants to be able to deal with it. Is it that a complicated system once you've got the crop to turn it into these things? Can people do this sort of stuff on their own at home or in small cottage industries?
Yeah, I think it certainly could be done in cottage industry, but to do it at home is a bit more complex. I mean, you're going to get stuff like that, like the rope, like a handmade rope and
Right.
stuff you could probably weave at home very easily. But when it comes to other things, you're going to need more mechanical devices to break down and to scotch and heckle the hemp,
But
which
I'm just
turns it
thinking
into that material then,
if farmers were keen to invest in some test fields of growing this, there would be an opportunity for a market opportunity for people to take that crop and turn it into things, even if it is not large scale and not cottage scale, but sort of mid scale. If someone had a workshop of some description of and enough machinery to be able to turn it into rope or bricks or whatever, even clothing, I gather. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, that behind me is another piece of hemp material a friend tie-dyed for me.
Right.
So the same girl that made the hemp rope in America, and that's actually a hat. It's made from hemp, 100% woven hemp from Transylvania, and there's quite an interesting story behind that company. They're called Dionesco. They make suits and all sorts of lovely, fancy, natural material clothing, high-end clothing. But they also use a machine that was made in Belfast
Right.
called a Mackey's turbine scotcher.
And
Uh,
presumably that would be that's much more beneficial to wear rather than all these plastic clothes that we're often, at discount prices that we're buying from various
yeah,
outlets.
absolutely. No, it's definitely a bit back to the construction and the housing. It's the best material you can have close to your skin. Really, it's basically linen. It's as good as linen, and linen's one of the highest quality materials you can have next to your skin. Apparently, uh, for all sorts of benefits. It actually potentially blocks out harmful EMFs as well on some
Does it?
levels.
Wow, gosh,
Mm.
that would be useful. We'll all be wearing hemp suit. And you said that with the demonstration there of the tie and dye one that obviously it can be dyed in the normal way and turned into. So I suppose some people will sort of go, it sounds all very hippie hemp, and I guess that's a kind of a falsehood that you want to move away from to make it
Yeah,
more everyday.
absolutely,
Yeah.
Richard. It does have a bit of stereotyping, as Yanto's pointed out, in uh, many aspects with regards to the likes of the marijuana is one thing it's been called. It was a slang name basically for Mary and Joanne, I think, because I know a Mexican girl called Joanna or Ioana, and that's English for Joanne. So it's Mary Joanne, as far as I can make out any proper interpretation for that. So it's just a slang for a racist slang at the time to demonize cannabis, because cannabis is, or hemp is cannabis. It's Cannabis L sativa, which is the Latin name. Uh, so there's so much mysticism around it. It does get a
Yeah.
bit of a hippie reputation, not to bring any more sort of stereotyping into it, but that's actually, I'll show it. You might get some controversy from this, Richard, but that's a swastika.
And what's the relevance of
That's actually from Hare Krishna's. That's made from hemp and cow shit, actually.
right?
So there you go.
Great.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't get
Yan,
much more hippie than that.
no, I guess not. Yanto, I'm assuming hemp then is perfectly legal to grow and do things with in the UK.
Yeah, it's legal. I think the legislation this year has become a little bit easier for the farmers. It's nowhere near what we want it at all.
So,
Uh, it's
what restrictions would there be then?
Well, to start with, the government here in Wales, for example, are risk adverse when it comes to hemp. So it's very hard to even have the conversation, really. So obviously we've been doing a feasibility study with Aberystwyth University. So that was over 3 years, growing 10 different types of hemp, just to see if it was viable, feasible, desirable, sustainable, which it is.
Mm.
Proven that, and then obviously they were looking into the proteins in it and stuff, and the academic side of things. But really, we were trying to see what the impact would be socially, medically and stuff as well. So this is what we're trying to do. So the legislation at the moment is split in different ways. Like I work with the CBD side of it. So the CBD is when you get the flower and then you squeeze the flower and then you create an oil. There's two ways of making an oil. So you can squeeze the seed or you can squeeze the flower, and then
Mm-hmm.
one creates hemp oil, and then the other creates the CBD oil. So again, there's a legislation over that, which is the Novel Food Act, which limits the amount of THC in the actual seed. So at the moment, the legal amount in the UK is 0.2%. So when when the hemp is growing in the fields, it can only reach 0.2% of THC per plant maximum. Now, obviously, there are seed sometimes, and it can go over that. Now, if that's the case, and the government come to the farm, for example, then that the whole crop can be confiscated because
right.
the legal amount. So this is why people are very nervous to work with it, because you could potentially lose £400,000 after 12 weeks of hard work.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I can see. And I presumably then the government also would have the worry that not everybody is growing hemp for the hemp purposes, but actually, they may not be able to tell the difference between what is a cannabis field and a hemp field. And whereas you can look at barley and oats and all the sort of traditional cereals that we grow, and you have no qualms that there's something dodgy growing in the field. Whereas presumably any inspector from DEFRA driving about would be looking, and it would make their life a bit awkward, which perhaps is one of many reasons that they would not like people to be growing it. Presumably, if the tractors are sort of weaving in a zigzagging sort of way, they'll know that it's perhaps cannabis rather than hemp. I don't know.
Cab,
Yeah. Well, they're just asleep in the corner of the field.
I think that it used to be called hot boxing when I was young, but anyway, so yeah.
Anyway. But that would, that is clearly a problem if people can't differentiate between the two, the crop.
Well, yeah, that has been a problem, Richard, in many respects as well, with the licensing application and stuff then over the years as well. And as Ianto's pointed out, in England, which applies to Wales then for their license application, they've just been granted they can apply for a 3-year license, which we've actually had here.
Right.
Since the start in Northern Ireland, there wasn't any other way we could actually apply. Maybe at the very beginning, 20 years ago, when there was a few pioneers here trying to establish a market.
It seems quite absurd, really. That so you're saying that I can go and grow some cabbages, or I can grow some barley or wheat, but if I want to grow hemp, I have to have a license. Is that right?
Yeah, it's not quite as complicated as it used to be. It was more like a firearms license to begin with.
A firearms license.
Well, you're actually applying to the Home Office. Even through Northern Ireland, they have an agency here called Health NI, and they basically act as the administrator for the civil service to take the applications on board from anybody in Northern Ireland. It's different. Again, it's different in the south of Ireland as well. So it's been different in the 3 different regions for over the last 20 years, just to create a bit more division, I think, then as well, with regards to the Irish are getting an easier application, or the English are getting an easier application, or whatever way it works, So
right. It just seems absurd to me that you need to have a license to grow something incredibly useful and beneficial to mankind.
Well, that's sort of a bit of the potential conspiracy about it all, isn't it? So I don't think there's any conspiracy. I think really hemp is the elephant in the room at this point, and that's a very strong thing to say, because it's actually really, really true. It has so many benefits, as we're pointing out, with environmental impact, with construction, with health. So, why has it not been taken on board? If that's the case, there has to be some other ulterior motive or some other reason behind that, if that's the case. So that just is common sense applied to this at this stage, as far as I'm concerned,
So really and truly, it seems to me that the answer is that the more you can get the message out that hemp is such an amazing product, it's easy and presumably relatively cheap. It's fast growing. I think you mentioned before it can be used as a biofuel, which sounds...
Yeah, Ianto said that as well. So it's again, that's to bring that back to the problem we have with the THC levels in the plants as well. That's another myth. It's as you said, people might go and smoke it or steal it out of the field and get high from it. But again, I don't think it's a big problem either. But the government certainly don't want you to do that or be free thinkers. So I think that's really where all that comes from. But if it has higher THC content or higher cannabinoid content right across the board with all of the representative cannabinoids, it's actually a better product in general. It's completely it creates more oil in the seed, creates more oil in the actual extraction of medicine from the plant then as well. And So it's yeah, it's the reason it's just been we're just been given the low hanging fruit, as they like to call it here, or and it's been the sort of term given to what we can do with hemp at the minute, because it's really we can't do anything. We can only really use 2 or 3 of the products from the plant, which is
Totally ridiculous, isn't it? I mean,
madness. Madness.
absolutely. Well, I know you both got different. You've sent me a couple of websites. Let's just have a quick look whilst you're there. Let's have a look at the Northern Ireland website that you've got here, and Northern Ireland Hemp, I think it is. Let me just see if I can go through it. Here we go. Hemp Association, helping the hemp industry grow in Northern Ireland, and of course I'll leave the links in the description so people can check them out. And you can find out a hell of a lot more information. And there it is, growing quite happily, with lots of ideas about what we can do with it and why we should use it. And clearly, it seems that we need to make this as known to people as possible, so people cry out for it and demand that we use it, especially if we're supposedly in all this climate change and we need the green agenda and net zero policies and all that bollocks. And then here is the Cambrian news, and I believe you, Ianto, you helped this young lady get going on her project, and here she is growing some help.
I was bioaccelerate project with her, and then we collaborated to do with hemp here in Wales, just by the two of us are big advocates, and then trying to do presentations for the government here in Wales, because as far as the government is concerned here in Wales especially, it's a lack of knowledge. So we're trying to demonstrate its potential and its impact to the government, so that they then can realise that it would be really in their favour to really put all their resources behind it, because it just feels completely sustainable, and it would make the country far healthier, and it would cater for all our needs really, and then we can sell the surplus. We just get the supply chain and the sort of the industry in place really, and get some match funding, like in Canada, for example, with the processing plants. They're all match funded 50%. So so we might need in Wales, we might need 3 or 4 processing plants, and all you do really is you reuse large existing buildings. You don't need to build a new building. You just you change and use what you've got here previously, or what you've already got.
And it's something we all actually had as a bit of history too. Sorry to cut across, but we all had the linen industry here in the UK. We were well known for it in the UK and Ireland specifically too. So, all that knowledge is still just about there as well, that we can
we had flax
into
as well, didn't we? We used to make things out of flax.
Yeah.
Well, again, all of the royals right across the world still use linen and still use they order their bed sheets are linen. They're all their silver service napkins and stuff are linen. They're not. They're the ones that are still using it, but they've told us we can't have it. We should be wearing synthetics, So
yes, because mass production with the petrochemicals makes a lot more money for some of these billionaires who've invested in all of this. And
I suppose there's a lot of old hands involved. I suppose there's a lot of history in some of these families, isn't there?
Yes. So absolutely. So there it is. Hemp is something that we should be shouting from the mountain tops and demanding that we grow, because it is very much the answer to the supposed green problem that we have with climate change, particularly because it's fast growing, it's green, and we can eat it. It's plant based. It sings all the things that they say that they want us to do, and yet, as you say, it's the elephant in the room that they're ignoring. Well, hopefully, in this little introduction video that we've excited a few people. I know I was at an event a farming event, and there was a tent, a marquee, where they were handing out hemp plants to people to sort of grow on their windowsill, and they did give me one. Unfortunately, it died. It died. I don't know whether I
You
watered
smoked it?
No, I didn't smoke it. But I was hoping, someone might knock on the door and say, hello, 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 you've got something dodgy there. And I could say, no, actually, it's hemp. So bog off and leave me alone, you interfering busybody.
Yeah. Well, don't mention any names who
Oh, hang
ever
on.
gave you the hemp plant, because it probably shouldn't have been doing that either. But there you go.
Well, it was at a fairly large and well organised farming event, and so presumably they got past the organisers all right to be in there introducing hemp. But this is the thing: if people don't know something is there, then of course they're not going to demand it from the powers that be, or they're not even going to just go and do it anyway. As those of us who try to sort of stay as out of the system as is possible. But farmers are desperate for a cash crop that will get them out of problems, and this might be the sort of thing. But as you say, they are hampered, not hempered, by the processing. But if we can get people to talk about it, then we've got the start.
Well, they are hampered. I like that.
Yeah, they're hampered by it. Gents, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about this. Hopefully people will be sharing the video far and wide and discussing it. And I'll put the links to the two websites that you gave me. Ianto, is there an address for your association for people to get involved with?
No, we've just got a Facebook group at the moment. We're not as advanced as Varin is. It's still early days here in Wales, but
right. But I'll get Varin to share the Facebook
work in progress.
Yeah, so that people can go and presumably you're open to people coming in and asking questions.
Yeah. The whole idea, isn't it?
Well, that's it. That's exactly it. Well, thank you both for coming on the show. Really appreciate that, and let's see what happens in the next few months. Hopefully more people will be demanding some hemp bricks in their hemp clothes whilst they smoke their hemp pipes. I wonder if you could make, actually, I'm just looking at that hemp thing. Yep. I mean, briar is a substance that pipes are made from. It's just my personal thing here. But I wonder if you could make hemp pipes, and then, you could use another substance in it, a tobacco, which people are sort of nervous about, and have the two together and really piss off the authorities.
Well, there's you reminded me of my youth as well. There's a corn on the cob pipe as well, isn't there?
Yes, the corn on the cob pipe, absolutely. That is a very cheap and easy way to smoke all sorts of substances, but we won't go down that path now. But anyway... Thank you so much, gents. It's been lovely to talk to you. Varin in Northern Ireland and Ianto in Wales. And now we need somebody in the jolly old England or Scotland to come forward and say, we're growing it, we're already doing it, which would be great to hear. So if you are, and you have any success with your hemp products, or you're doing some inroads with it, do let us know, because sharing is caring, as they say. Anyway, thank you, chaps.
Absolutely.
Very much appreciate you coming on and demonstrating.
Thank you.
And not setting fire to your workshop, Varin. Until next time, I shall be back with more monologues and wonderful guests such as those. So thank you for watching. Until next time, from us all, bye-bye.